The transformation of Jacksonville's historic Union Terminal warehouse is an urban revitalization project that advocates hope will drive investment and development on the east side. Joining me to discuss it, I am joined by Ryan Akin, partner and developing manager at Columbia Ventures. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning, Ann. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. We're also joined by Suzanne Pickett, CEO of Historic Eastside Community Development Corporation. Good morning,
Good
Suzanne.
morning. Thank you, Ann.
And Travis Williams, Chief Operating Officer of Lyft JAX. Welcome.
Hey, good morning.
So, if you could just start us off and orient us a little bit, Ryan, about this project, because as you said, a lot of people drive past it all the time, but they may not know the building that we're talking about. So, it's on Union Street.
Yeah, it's on Union Street. If you're coming from Arlington into the city along the Matthews Bridge, it's on your right just as before you come into downtown. It was kind of a peach color with some red corrugated metal windows for a really long time, and then people have been coming by for the past couple of years have been seeing the transformation occurring real time before their eyes. Now the building's painted white with the black windows that are historic replica windows. And then as folks are coming off 95 into Union Street into the city, if they look straight ahead, they'll see the giant water tower, red water tower on the top that has the letters UTW for Union Terminal Warehouse,
Yeah.
which is a historic name of the building. So it's a sort of an iconic building in Jacksonville, and it's lived many lives over the past century, and we've taken it into the next century.
And so the new life of this building is it's a residential space, it's a workspace, it has a lot of amenities, it's got a very cool aesthetic. Can you just sort of describe? We're showing some pictures, I think, of the renovation that people who are watching our live stream can see, but tell us a little bit about what you were going for in the design and the amenities that it offers.
Sure. Yeah, we undertook a historic renovation, adaptive reuse project. So, we really leaned into the industrial aesthetic that was already there. It's an irreplicable building. You can't start from scratch and rebuild this place with all the history and the stories and the character that it has in it. So, rather than trying to paint over that and sort of hide it, we really embraced it and leaned into it. And those that come and tour really appreciate that, it seems, and really desire that. It's a place that's inspiring to be in. It's the building itself has 228 apartments in it, so you could think of an apartment community with residents that are living in studios, one, two, three-bedroom apartments. And then it also has a lot of workspace in it, which is not something that everyone will see when they drive by. This workspace is called Workhouse, which is a blend of workspace and warehouse. It's an old industrial warehouse with workspace in it. And there are 43 of those small business spaces for entrepreneurs. If your listener is a graphic designer, a real estate agent, an attorney, a lawyer, an artist, a photographer, these are spaces for small businesses to come and inhabit and form an ecosystem. And then in the basement, there are, yes, there's actually a basement. There are 11 sort of light industrial spaces for the listeners that are of the maker variety. Maybe they're artists or craftspeople, content creators, and what have you.
Yeah. And so this is a newly renovated and newly leasing. But Suzanne, this is a building that has been on the east side for a long time. And it's one that you actually occupied yourself for a while.
I did. I occupied the space for 5 years as an artist and met wonderful other artists and makers who some had occupied that space for over 3 decades in the Union Terminal Warehouse. So very excited about the revitalization of it, welcoming creatives and businesses back, as Ryan says, and just excited about the fusing of new residents to the Union Terminal to the residents of Eastside.
And this is a historic property with that designation. It also got some incentives to help kind of realize this project. Um, how how central is this redevelopment to kind of the overall efforts to redevelop and revitalize the east side?
So this is a great addition to our mixed income housing initiative in the East Side to fuse again current housing, current opportunities, legacy residents with new residents in the neighborhood.
Okay. So, Travis, what about this was easy? What about this was difficult? I mean, what were some of the challenges to getting this project off the ground?
Well, I'll let Ryan speak to maybe some of the particular challenges that he had. But I would say from our lens, the challenges with these projects historically are people see them as a sign of new things to come, and that new doesn't necessarily include those who've been there. think in development we talk about projects normally consider the come theirs, not the been theirs. And so generally these projects speak to that. But our experience has been totally different from day one, really connecting with Ryan and the team at Columbia. The challenge has just been how do we do more together? It's not doing anything, but what are the symbolic ways that we can show the community that this new and shiny object does not mean that it's not for you. It can be for you
Mhm.
too. You can come back to the East Side with your business and be housed in the East Side. Maybe you moved away and you want to move back. This can be where you live. And so those symbolic things, but then also the action. And so whether it's a hard hat tour that we took 2 years ago with businesses in the neighborhood. So they got a very early experience with the building to feel like, hey, I know this building. I know what's happening with it. It's not this new thing happening over there that we don't know about. And that intentionality and getting more people to know about it, that was the challenge, was how do we get more people to know about this building? And how do we make sure that the narrative is that this building is a part of this neighborhood, and it's an addition to the neighborhood. And so that's been a great experience.
And, like Suzanne, you also have a personal connection to this building. Can
Yeah.
you tell us about that?
Yeah, like many folks, who grew up in the neighborhood, I'm a fourth generation East Sider, so my family's called the neighborhood home for 100 years. And I recently learned, and this isn't a story I grew up with. My aunt stays about a block away from the building, and she's one of my grandparents' oldest child. And she said, "Yeah, your great grandfather worked in that building in maybe the 40s or 50s, I believe." She wasn't 100% sure, but there was a post office that used to be there, and he was employed there. He lived at the corner of Jesse and Sparing Street, so maybe a 4 block walk. And so all those stories are there with a lot of legacy East Siders, and it's great to see this new life being breathed into the building. And now we get a chance to write our own stories and our interaction, and maybe our grandkids will learn about as well how we interacted with the building.
I mean, we should say there's a lot of historic buildings that haven't been so fortunate in Jacksonville, that haven't had a plan for revitalization and ultimately have just been taken down. Was this building ever at risk of that fate, or was it?
Sure, I can speak to that. And every building undergoes a life cycle, if you will. Just the physical environment does, and eventually gravity takes its toll, and nature takes its toll, and all of those things. And buildings, need repairs and maintenance. There's a lot of concrete restoration just to the structure of the building to sort of rehab it for the next 100 years. So that's a definite and real possibility with any old building. From an environmental perspective, they say the most sustainable building is the one that already exists. So,
Mm.
there's a lot of embedded carbon in there. There's a lot of, you know, people's sweat equity in there to create a place like this. And so we want to keep it going. But it takes financial tools. It takes an environment, partners, and perseverance are the kind of three things that come to mind for me. And Jacksonville has been certainly a welcoming environment to try to execute a project like this, to the point of contributing funds through the Downtown Preservation and Revitalization Program that was created by the Downtown Investment Authority to spark efforts just like this, where an old building that needs additional financial incentives and help to become a reality receives those and then puts those buildings back into productive use. So yeah, that's a real possibility, and it does happen all the time. Absent the environment and then the great partners, and partners is community partners like I'm sitting with here today. It's the city government, city of Jacksonville, and the Downtown Investment Authority, and the city council. It's design partners, construction partners, leasing partners. The whole group of people that bring it together, and there's um, you know, thousands of people that have been involved. When you think through all the supply chain and every person at a desk that's worked on this.
And this wasn't an inexpensive project. My understanding it was about $72 million to do this overhaul.
That's right. That's
But
right.
as you say, enabled by some incentives from DIA and some state tax credits.
There's there's really incentives at the federal, state, and local level in the project. There are federal historic tax credits in the project, with a historic tax credit equity investor in the deal. There are brownfields tax credits, which are through the state of Florida, for cleaning up a site that has old railroad tracks and the remnants of that, and the environmental concerns that come with it. There is a local real estate tax exemption that comes with it, the building being a local landmark that's also listed on the National Register of Historic Places. And then there's funding through the Downtown Investment Authority, the Downtown Preservation and Revitalization Program. And in addition to that, this project is actually the largest by square footage historic tax credit project in the state of Florida since the inception of the program in the 1970s. And it is the first historic tax credit project in a federally designated opportunity zone, which are qualified census tracts.
Suzanne, we've got just a little under a minute left, but could you just say kind of how you're going to measure success when looking at this project going forward?
So again, with our initiative in the revitalization of Eastside, I want to mention that the Union Terminal is also now on our Main Street. We have a Florida Avenue Main Street. We're the only one in Jacksonville. A Philip Randolph Boulevard and Union Street now is a Main Street. So we measure success, again, very importantly, by the amount of new residents that come in and the development. But in our with gentrification strategy, just how many legacy residents are still able to stay in the community and be a part of this wonderful work. So the Union Terminal
With gentrification
with
is the new term.
gentrification,
Yeah.
yes. Columbia Ventures Partnership is a great example of how you can have a major development, as Travis alluded to, a major development into the community that works with the community, that's there for the community while welcoming new residents.
Well, there is leasing information if anybody is interested. It's at utwjax.com. Ryan, Akin, Suzanne, Pickett, Travis Williams, thank you all so much for being here today. Appreciate it.
Thank
Congrats
you,
on the
Ann.
new project.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
guys.
Ann.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
All right.